On.
Wait for it. Wait for it. On. We're live, everybody.
Nice. And I've got a.
But we're not going to talk while we're. Well.
Gypsy tells me I have a non-optimal connection. That's it. The alternative to live is we're live. We're live, everybody.
Hey, Jeff McKinney.
I don't know if you know this, everybody. I used to work at a record store, and I had this amazing idea one day that I was going to start a band called Live, and it was going to destroy the record industry from its foundation because people would get confused and they want to buy albums from Live, but we're Live, and then we would have a live album called Live Live, and it was just going to fuck everything up. It was going to be perfect.
No, it would be Live Live.
No, that would be the volume 2. The bootleg at the Royal Albert Hall.
All right. So there's not much to talk about on the show notes tonight because everything's set in stone. Did you guys see the PR email at the bottom of the show notes?
No.
Okay, excellent. Good job following instructions.
What instructions? You were telling me stories about your kids.
But that's what we're going with. And actually, I have my name on it, but I think we're going to let Elizabeth talk about it since it was her awesome find.
Don't make me talk about it.
Okay. All right. I'll talk about it then.
You talk about it. You're in love with it.
Okay. I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, just roll with it. Don't even read it, Jeff Salmon.
What about
you have to? You got to send him the graphic. He's got to see the graphic.
What about when Liv was live at the Fillmore? And everyone's like, live at the Fillmore? No, live at the Fillmore. Live.
Okay.
But we're not campaigning ice against ice wine, just ice in wine.
Yeah. We're not.
Oh.
We're not. Somebody is, but we're not. Okay.
All right.
You guys all set?
Yeah.
All right. I think we're recording. Yeah, we're recording. There. We got our 2 recording sessions going. I think we're set. Elizabeth, you all set for this?
I'm ready to go.
All right.
Hey, everybody watching live, throw your questions in the comment section on YouTube, you squares.
Get in the chat. Let us know. Doug Trapasso, if you're not viewing, then you're
doing it wrong, bud.
Yeah, you're not an Elizabeth Schneider fan, Doug Trapasso.
Oh no, he is. He got an advanced copy of the book, man. He's my man.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go.
G'day, this is Mel McLennan from New Zealand and Mamae Vineyards. We're in Hawke's Bay on the halfway down on the east coast of the North Island. It's great to be here and talking to you guys on the We Like Drinking podcast.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 249 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing dumb people hashtagging dumb things, the 5-year podcasting club, and we're getting the inside deets on the new Wine for Normal People book with author Elizabeth Schneider. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking. All right, we know it's going to be a great episode. Jeff Solomon has his towel on his back. Jeff Solomon has his red notebook in hand. John Solomon. Oh, shit, some weird family shit just broke out. John Ruyak.
Tell that guy he owes me some money.
And Elizabeth Schneider is hella deep into her glass of wine because she realized she's just made a terrible mistake. So, cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 249 of the only two-time award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on fun. I got 2 ahead of my F's there for a second. Shit's all out of control already. I don't know.
I believe D is
Well,
is
at
two
least we're
ahead of
not.
F.
At least,
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jeff. What's that?
how do you tell the difference between dog urine and apple juice?
I don't know.
God.
All right.
Gotta drag it down already.
Enough with
Yep.
the visual jokes to start the show, John. Come on.
Get the squeegee out and just burn it to the ground, John. That's what you do. All right. Well, folks, like by now, if you're listening to the show, you've realized that you've just hit on podcast gold and you should probably subscribe. So visit welikedrinking.com/subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode of this in all its glory. It's just so great. All right. We have a lot to get through tonight. I am thirsty. I am parched. I am ready to get into this, and I really want to talk to our guest. So let's find out who we're drinking with. We're joined by our usual cast members. We've got our wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
I did that a long time ago. What's up, everybody? I got some sleep.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We've got our beer brewer, John Ruyak.
Hey, everybody!
And I am your host, Jeff Eccles. Now, our guest tonight last appeared on the show over 4 years ago, back on episode 36. She is the host of the phenomenal wine podcast, Wine for Normal People, the co-creator of the Underground Wine Events, which helps to promote small family-owned wineries throughout the United States, and the author of the soon-to-be released Wine for Normal People book. Please help us welcome one of my honest-to-God favorite people out there, Elizabeth Schneider. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. What a nice intro.
You like that? Guess who's back?
I can't believe it's been that long.
Right?
I feel like everything
We've been doing this
time
that
is just
long.
compressed.
It just goes so fast when you've got all these kids, right, Jeff Solomon? He's
I'm back. I'm back. I don't know what the hell just.
You can also find Elizabeth on her website, winefornormalpeople.com. She's on Instagram and Facebook at Wine for Normal People or on Twitter at Normal Wine. All right. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's
We're so
very
excited.
good to be back. You guys make me
So
laugh.
excited
I
to
like
have
that.
you here. So excited that you could make it. There's a long story attached to it, but we had a guest that couldn't make the show tonight, and literally in 12 hours notice, Elizabeth is on the show to us. So we are super grateful for that. It doesn't mean we didn't do all our research and we're not ready to go with this. We're going to get to it. But Elizabeth, what's in your glass tonight?
I am drinking, of course, a small producer, as I do. And they'll be at the Underground Wine event because I'm just hawking everything right now. Afton Mountain Vineyards, Cabernet Franc from the Monticello AVA in Virginia. And it is just such an elegant, lovely, beautiful wine. And if you have an opportunity ever to visit Afton Mountain, I highly recommend it because they're such cool people too. They're just fantastic. I love them. Kind of strange wine.
Is that who was on your last episode?
No, they were on a couple episodes ago. I've had a bunch of Finger Lakes people, but yes, Elizabeth Smith, who we now call each other like, the sister from another mother, but it doesn't sound very good.
Yeah,
she really needs to be like that. Yeah. But anyway, we're like, I love this lady, but she does things the right way. And if a lot of these emerging regions, if you do it right, you can really spin some gold, and that's what they're doing at Afton Mountain. It's such great wine.
Awesome. And the producer was who again?
Afton Mountain Vineyards.
Afton Mountain Vineyards. All right. John Ruyak, what's in your glass?
I am drinking the Silver Trident that we got a couple of weeks ago, the Symphony No. 9 Sauvignon Blanc. Sharon and I opened this up for dinner. We had orange ruffy piccata and asparagus, and this, the butter sauce and the piccata. Well, the Sauvignon Blanc did well with the butter sauce and the fish piccata. But I also have a treat from Tracy. Brought me back a treat, Cajeta de Calella, which is kind of a dulce de leche made with goat's milk. She brought this back from Mexico, of course. I can't remember the exact region she was in, but It's really tasty, nice and sweet, and the obviously the Sauvignon Blanc with the acidity does well with this.
Nice.
Jalisco. She was in Jalisco for her cousin's wedding, and it's in this really weird, neat little cigar box looking thing. I know our listeners on Friday can't see that. I know it's a visual thing, but this was really interesting. I thought you brought me a cigar from Mexico, but it's a really tasty treat.
Were you angry when you opened it and it was not a cigar?
No, because I had a really nice Cuban cigar on a trip a couple weeks ago. And that was my one cigar that I have every 2 years. So
there you go.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, I am kind of going along the same lines. I'm going with Peju winery, and Elizabeth, I'm going with the Cabernet Franc that they have. This is the 2016.
Cheers to you, man.
Yeah, you as well.
We didn't even plan that.
I know, and we're all connected here. So yep. I heard you talking about how good the Merlot and the Cab Franc is out of Virginia. Are those kind of the grapes that you feel are thriving in that area?
You know, it's hard. It's really hard to say. First of all, the state is incredibly varied. So it depends on the county and where it is. And even within the Monticello AVA, it's really big. So it really reminds me of like Sonoma 15 years ago. You could get a lot of misses, and then all of a sudden things got a lot better, and now it's really hard to get really crappy. I mean, you can do it. Trust me, I've done it, but it's hard to get crap out of it. The technology has come far. People are learning. It's that kind of thing. So Monticello, I think they're doing more with they're doing a lot with the site. So it just depends. But yes, I would say for the most part, Merlot and Cabernet Franc are the lead grapes but the best thing out of Virginia are really the blends. Although I would also say, you get a guy like Luca Pasquina out of Barbersville, which is, that's the hugest winery in Virginia. He's making some like kick-ass Nebbiolo and, Vermentino and things like that. I mean, they're known for their Octagon, which is their big, it's a Cabernet Franc or Merlot based red, which, is really good, but their Nebbiolo, I think, is their best wine. So I don't know, but the best, in my opinion, the best wine in Virginia, there are two really, really top producers. That's Linden and Glen Manor out of the Shenandoah Valley. And they make Cabernet Franc and Merlot based reds. So yeah.
Okay.
So are those in drier parts of Virginia? Because Virginia gets a lot of rain closer to the coast.
Well, the coast is not really suitable. We're looking at places like that are in the mountains. So, Virginia's super mountainous. So if you can get in the right site, and that's the whole thing about it, is that they're just, they're about 25, 30 years in, and now they're really figuring out, like Afton Mountain site is right on it. It's gorgeous. It's like on the very far western part of the county. And it's on a mountain, and it's freezing at night, even when it's hot out. And yeah, they get rain, but the drainage, it's all about drainage for them. I mean, you got to think about it more like Europe. I mean, they're going to get rain. They're even going to get hail during the growing season, but the drainage is so key. Like that's how they're doing this.
Okay. Awesome. And we'll have more questions on that. But Jeff Solomon.
Oh, hello. I'm here.
What you drinking tonight?
Oh, is that what segment we're in? Hey,
he's drinking apple juice.
I am
out of a sippy cup.
Yes, from the floor. So, I gotta tell you, just a little background here. As excited as I was to get into some different types of gins tonight, I don't think, aside from any Wolf Pouch, I don't think we've ever had like a backup guest come in where I was just so super stoked that they were on the show. Last time Elizabeth was on the show, I wanted to make sure that I was drinking wines from my favorite underrepresented wine region, because I know she's into that stuff. So I was representing the Santa Clara Valley and Gilroy, and I thought I'd bring another one of those out right now. This is the 2012 Aver Family Vineyards Blessings. This is a 100% Petite Syrah grown essentially, I would say it's in my backyard, but then everybody thinks it's the suburbs on the other side of the hill behind my house. And I just love this wine so much. I think a lot of folks in the Bay Area are really starting to understand how awesome Aver Family Vineyards is. And I just wanted to, maybe wink, wink, nudge, nudge Elizabeth to come out to the Santa Clara Valley and get in with the really good wine that isn't sold in an aluminum den on the side of 101 where they shove garlic into their shiners of wine.
Although
there
that might be
actually is good
interesting
wine
too,
out here.
right?
Oh, no. The interesting part is you film people's reactions as they're tasting it. It's like when you watch YouTube and you have bands watching little kids watch their music videos for the first time. So you're filming reactions of reactions. I think that's the only way garlic wine could be interesting, because F that so much. So much.
Oh,
I
so
hate
gross.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
It is so gross.
They don't even roast
even
it. It's
thought of
just
that?
raw garlic. I'm
Oh,
just going to take raw garlic and teabag it into some shitty wine to begin with. And then the stuff that doesn't sell after a year, they just put a different label on it and they call it cooking wine. And it's like, fuck you guys. You're the worst.
I mean,
So-
first of all, isn't garlic wine like aromatized wine? Wouldn't that be really what it is? That they need to
I don't
change
even
it?
know.
It's like a different
You know-
category. And second of all, why don't they just turn it into vinegar with
It's,
garlic
what
in it? That's the money move.
That is the money move.
Unfortunately, Elizabeth, I think calling it an aromatized wine gives a bad rap to aromas. So I'm going to challenge you there.
Don't say that funny shit while I'm taking a sip.
All I know is I need to go back about 35 seconds and get what Jeff said about it and get a talking card out to these guys for their garlic wine, because I think you got a good shelf talker for them.
Oh, dude, it'll get a bazillion hits on YouTube. They'll sell units.
All right. Oh my goodness. So welcome to the show, everybody. Elizabeth, I believe Elizabeth, it's either Elizabeth or Ryan from Focus on the Beer, holds the record for the longest episode of We Like Drinking, clocking in at like an hour and 45, because once we start talking to Elizabeth, we just don't stop. None of us do. So
I'm
we'll
really
see if-
sorry. That's
Well,
boring.
I will see if
And
that
you got to edit it down. Like, I talk to people for an hour and 45 minutes, and then like I churn it through the editing wheel, and then it turns out to be a 30-minute podcast. I'm like, nope, I don't like that question. I don't like what I asked. That's not good. That story went on too long.
That's how professionals do it. But you're not on a professional show tonight. You're on We Like Drinking. So here we go. All right. So Ruyak, you're gonna get us into the spirit of things. You've got us tonight with a little bit we like to call
Wine, beer, or pop culture reference. So most of you know the drill, but if you don't, I'm going to throw out a term, and these guys are going to go around the table and they're going to have them guess as to whether this term I'm going to give them has to do with wine, beer, or a pop culture reference. So this week's term is Toma. Toma. Here we go. So let's start with Solomon.
John Ruyak,
Yes.
can you spell that, please?
Toma.
Oh wait,
T-O-
there's no H.
Like coma.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm all
Toma. Is
A.
the T capitalized?
It is actually.
Okay. Toma. Okay, here's the thing. I know this for a fact, that if you if you fly into the Reno Tahoe International Airport in Reno, Nevada,
Should be good.
when you fly in, you are going to get shaken like a Polaroid picture as you come in for that landing, because it's just mountains going into this dry valley. When you land, if you are choosing to go to Lake Tahoe, you will either be renting a car, you will be jumping on a bus that will take you south through the state capital of Virginia City and then west to one Lake Tahoe. It's going to bring you in on the south shore. And then what you might decide to do is, after you slum around the casinos a little bit, maybe you're going to go on a drive around the lake. And one of the more underexplored areas of the lake is on the west side of the lake, about midway down between Tahoe City and South Lake Tahoe. There's a tiny little town with a bunch of cabins in it called Tahoma, right? And the only thing that Tahoma has going for it is they've got a wonderful liquor store called the Tahoma PDQ, and their sandwiches are so legit. One of them, it's actually it's a traditional caprese panini with these beautiful heirloom tomatoes that were frozen for about 3 months, picked at the ripe of freshness, frozen, dropped off on the top of the summit, and then rolled down into the Tahoma PDQ. And because it is loaded full of these like really weird freeze-dried tomatoes, and it's in Tahoma, they call it the Toma sandwich, which is short for tomatoes. So while you are experiencing cabin fever in Tahoma, California, overlooking Lake Tahoe, you will be eating a Toma sandwich.
So,
Wow.
Eccles, do you think we can impose a time limit on Solomon's answers?
Yeah, I think
Which, by the way, it doesn't make it a pop culture reference. That's a wine reference.
We're gonna have to get like a buzz
because you eat the Toma sandwich with a beautiful bottle of one of those Australian wines with the animals on it. When you eat it, it's delicious. It's a wine reference.
It's a wine reference.
It's a wine reference based on a sandwich.
All right, Elizabeth, want to get a shot at Toma?
I do not know what that is, so that does not mean that it's not a wine reference. But I'm going to go for, and I do feel like I'm a little bit up on pop culture, but I might not be. Like, I just learned what is it, like VSCO girl is? Do you guys know what that is?
What? No.
Yeah, it's a thing. You're going to have to look it up.
That sounds gross.
No.
It sounds like it involves...
Is that like the girl who introduces our videos being on?
No, it means yeah, basic.
No, it has to do with vape juice and freeze-dried tomatoes.
Yeah, basic. That's what it means. VSCO girl means yeah, basic. So let's see. Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to, by process of elimination, say that it's a beer term, but likely I'll be embarrassed and it'll be some like wine term that I've never heard of. That's what I'm going to say.
It's a beer term. Okay.
That's what I'll say.
Eccles, what you think?
All right. I am going to go with Elizabeth on this one and say I'm going to say this is a beer term that has something to do with a beer out of Central Illinois. Since you were recently
I was there recently. Okay, yeah. Beer. Okay. Yeah. Toma is the name of the person is the lead role in the 2001 Serbian film Normal People.
That is not a pop
Oh.
culture reference.
That's a
That
pop
is like
culture reference.
alternative, weird cultural reference. Not weird. Like, I'm sorry if you're Serbian, but no, I'm gonna have to dispute that. I'm sorry, John. Don't you have a buzzer?
Apparently,
Jeff
Elizabeth
Eccles,
is
don't you have a
not
buzzer?
a
You have to
normal
buzz that
person.
out. That's done.
By next week,
Thank you. Thank you. I'll do my
you've been voted off the island for your obscure pop culture reference,
Yeah,
John.
seriously.
John
Sending
Solomon.
me.
You're John Solomon.
Like,
Give-
like I've never been burned by some weird pop culture reference.
right, since
How
Jeff
is that
Solomon.
pop culture? Wait, how are you guys defining pop culture? Because that is not poppy.
It's
Like
really
I
like
said,
an else.
you guys, you should have given it to me. I could have given you VSCO. You would have no idea what that is. And that's legit. You could, I think there's like a hashtag for
legit.
that.
Yeah, Voss Girl or whatever, however they pronounce it. Yeah, Jeff Solomon gave us like his friend's last name one time as a pop culture reference.
It's
Well
a pretty
played.
wide category. Come
Yeah,
on.
it's pretty broad. John Riek, what's the term again?
Toma.
Yeah,
Played by Nobasha Glokovac.
Oh, that's
Who's just
bullshit.
lighting the world on fire right now.
It was directed by Oleg Novkovic.
You know what you sound like? You sound like a teacher that prides themselves in their F rates. I got news for you, teachers that enjoy failing kids. If you're failing more than half your kids, you're not doing your job. The goal's the other way around.
all of the names you just said, John Riek, I'm shocked. They're all trending on Twitter right now. Granted, Jeff Solomon.
By the way,
Jeff Solomon.
No,
Jeff Solomon.
I need to tell you something. By the way, when the Green Lake Girl on Twitter is also very upset with John's obscure pop culture reference.
John or Jeff Solomon, one of our listeners wants to know, in reference to your answer to wine, beer, or pop culture reference,
Yeah.
do you teach this way? The kids in his class must be so confused.
Yeah, they're confused for a lot of reasons. Hi, children listening. Is Mr. Solomon really
All
on
right.
paternity leave? Yes.
All right, so we're 20 minutes in and we can start interviewing our guests. See, like when Elizabeth has a podcast, she like gets to her guests like within the first like 2 minutes. We take
Stop
like
it.
we take almost half an
That
hour.
would be a professional podcast.
Oh, stop. Different show, man.
Elizabeth Schneider, so much going on with you. I don't even know where to start. I think we'll climb in the Wayback Machine for a second. We're all going to go back. We're going to go back to episode 36 of the We Like Drinking show. And when you were last on, we had this part of the conversation was about that you were starting the process of writing a book.
There's
and we were
no
really
way I
excited.
was starting it, man. I had started it
I
like
think she
6
was
years
saying-
before.
Yeah. That's
Remember that, like
I
we have
think-
the off-air conversation. Sorry to interrupt. The off-air conversation that we had is that all of us, even though we're at different stages, have had some tough-ass kids who have prevented us from doing various activities that we would like to do over the course of time. Mine happens to be getting a book out in a timely fashion. Yes.
No,
indeed.
but the book is becoming a reality like in the next couple weeks.
No, there
So,
it is. See, I'm pimping it out
there it
behind
is.
me. If you're watching, it's like here
If
it
you're
is.
watching. So
Yeah.
it's about to come out. So really, I mean, this has been a years long process, and I just want to know, like, how has that process been for you to get to this point, and how do you feel with it just about to actually be a reality in the world?
Wow, that's a lot of question there. Okay, so the years-long process is a combination of frustration, embarrassment of how long it took, excitement when I was like into writing, and really not thinking about it as anything that was ever going to be done. I mean, I knew eventually it would be done, but it was sort of like this thing where I had everything planned out, and I could only write when I felt like I was not in Jeff Solomon land right now, like where I was not so tired from my children and worn down that I could actually present something in a coherent fashion that was like positive or negative, but just had my voice, right? Because that's one of the things I think the only difference between me and someone else in wine is that I have okay, I'll tell you this very funny story. Somebody recently wrote on my Facebook page, they're like, I'm very upset with you. I can't listen to your show anymore because I just noticed that in the Chenin Blanc episode, you gave an opinion about California Chenin Blanc, and your show is not supposed to be opinionated. I'm like,
wait, what?
What?
Whoa.
have you ever listened to anything I've ever done? Because I'm the most opinionated mototherfucker you'll ever meet. So I'm allowed to curse, right? I'm not allowed to curse on my own show.
No,
I'm like,
absolutely
yeah.
not.
I mean, I'm like, that's ridiculous. So obviously, I have a voice. So you don't like the voice, turn it off. You don't like the voice, don't read the book. But I feel like somebody's got to have a voice, and why not everything can be sanitized. Not everything can be non-opinionated, and not everything can be, so the people I usually gravitate toward in the wine world are also people that have opinions, and there are people I don't agree with, but I think it's good to have some sort of voice. So that had to be there in order for me to write. And then of course, like life happens. I had 2 kids while I was writing. We renovated a house. We moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. Like, there was all this other stuff going on. I had a podcast going. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. So when the process was finally done, it was a little bit scary because I was like, oh gosh, now I'm going to put this out in the world. And then I was very fortunate because in 2011, when I started the podcast, I was actually contacted by a literary agent who, of course, being me, I was like, what do you want from me? Like, what can you get out of me? I don't know anything about the book publishing world. I still don't. And so I was like, she was like, I'm trying to help you. Our incentives are aligned. And I was like, oh, so then she became a really good friend. And that helped shepherd me along. She never pushed. She understood it was going to take time. And then when the book was done, it was a lot of like back and forth. And the one thing that I made sure to do was like, I had focus groups with my audience about, and like the people who listen to the show and who were supportive of the book, to find out like, what should I do with this? Like my agent was saying one thing and I wanted to do something else. So I ultimately fought for what I wanted, because everybody who I did like a couple of focus groups with like 35, 40 people. And they're all people whose opinions I trusted. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with this. I'm going to just try to publish the whole book instead of carving it up. And it just happened that it was a good idea. And one publisher, a couple of publishers wanted to carve it up, but I went with Chronicle because they said they wanted the whole book. So that was pretty exciting. And now that it is coming out, it is absolutely terrifying.
Oh my!
Like that's what I can tell you. I mean, I'm nothing if not honest. I'm not like trying to posture. It's scary as shit. You sit there, you've written all this stuff, and you have worked so hard, and then you just worry about the dumpster fire that is the internet, the trolls and everything else. And for some reason, over the course of years, of course, people say fucking horrible things about you as you put yourself out there, on iTunes, on Reddit, on whatever. And I used to look at it, and I don't anymore, because it's a dumpster fire. My favorite new internet term that people have used. I really like the visual there. It is. So now I'm faced with this thing that I've spent so much time on, and it feels deeply personal. And so I am trying very hard to just stay positive, because I am the person who like would get straight A's and a B plus, and all I would care about is the B plus. Right. Like, so that's me. And so I am very excited about the book, but I know that like I just don't want to see the negativity because it's terrifying. You know, we spend that much time working on something. I'm sorry to get like emotional and weird about it, but
No, no.
Okay.
I'm not keeping it light.
No, that's great. I mean, I can totally imagine. I mean, you poured your heart and soul into this. And as you're saying, it sounds like it's very much your voice, which I love hearing. And so I can imagine that that's a deeply personal thing that you're putting out there, and you know what's going to happen. Well, I mean, you think you know what's going to happen, right?
I know what's going to happen.
I
Dumpster
can't wait
fire.
for it. No, no. It's gonna be-
Can I say something like, because I think that this is important. One of the things that, you know, when Elizabeth was coming on our show the first time, like 100 million years ago, when we had no right to even have her grace
Stop
our
it.
presence, I was like, I was kind of aware of you, but I'm like, I better start listening to her podcast. And I fell in love with your podcast right away. And I remember specifically there was this part where like you were talking about like the haters on iTunes and everything, and you said, look, if you don't like the show, don't fucking listen. Like, you're going out of your way. And I just thought that was amazing. Like, here's the thing. Elizabeth's really modest here. I just broke out my phone and I just typed in wine in the Apple Podcast store, and she's number 1 for a reason, right?
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Because the show is amazing. And it's not one of those shitty shows where it's like get a celebrity to back your brand and skyrocket to number 1 for about a week and then disappear. You've been there the whole time. And one of the big, well, a couple big appeals is like, you know, you're true to the name of the podcast. Like, you really do a great job of taking the pretension out of wine, but you also have an opinion, and you're not afraid to share
opinions.
it. And I think that's wonderful. And unfortunately, what goes along with it is there's just a lot of folks that are like, well, what right does she have to be at the top? I've got an opinion too, and how come nobody's listening to me? And it's like, you know, fuck them, dude. Like, that's honestly, I wish that our show had more to complain about in terms of like haters, but our show's honestly not that good yet. And so I just wanted to let that be known. Taking it back to the book, because, you know, however this happens, however many years in the process, this is so serendipitous. It's October, so it's already the holiday season. And I know that people are going to be searching out this book in particular. If only there was a way that somebody could get an autographed copy of your book. I was just wondering, like, is that something that's available for, like, I don't know, $30 extra? Could I do that?
No, it's not even $30 extra. If you pre-order it and then send your receipt to winefornormalpeoplebook@gmail.com before November 5th, you can get it for free. Everybody, and you might get entered to win like a class that's worth $500 or a something like a cork puller or a mini class with me. All that is going on now because pre-sales, you know, the publishing industry is really kind of crazy because apparently you have to get pre-sales. It's not enough that like people would buy your book once it was on sale, but pre-sales are really important. So we're doing a pre-sale campaign. So that's it. Yes, totally free.
Awesome.
Just
So
an email.
if people go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and order the book ahead of time before, you said November 5th?
Yes, and then you have to send the receipt, like just a screenshot of the receipt or whatever to winefornormalpeoplebook@gmail. There you go.
And then they're going to get an autographed copy.
Yes, they will. Well, you'll get a book plate. It looks like, oh my gosh, speaking of dumpster fire, my favorite word these days. You'll get something that looks like this and you'll stick it. It's a sticker. You stick it inside the book. I can't physically do everybody's book. but I will
Right,
send you a sticker and you
Um,
can stick it inside. It's called the book plate,
And
which
you're
I did
al-
not know.
and you also get entered to win potential classes with you, correct?
Yes, and classes, a cork puller. Then there's like some mini classes. You can get your friends together. Yeah, so it's cool. It'll be super fun. We're gonna do the drawing on, I guess, on November 5th, on the day of the launch. But yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, excellent.
Between now and then, it's just bananas because I've got I do this event almost every year for the American Society of Perfumers, which is such a fun event. So I'm going to do that in New York, and then I'm going back and doing my launch party in New York because I'm from there, even though I live in Raleigh. So I felt that it was important to do it in the ancestral home, which is cool. Well, like I'm a Jewish girl from New York, so I'm doing it on the Lower East Side, which is where my family's from, and so we're doing that. That should be really awesome, and then the underground wine. I mean, it's like my whole next couple of weeks is just crazy because then I come back. Then we have the underground wine event in Washington D.C. with all these like fantastic small producers from Washington State and Oregon and Virginia and Finger Lakes and Long Island, and then after like a couple weeks later, I'm doing another launch party in Raleigh, and then I'm going to Verona to speak at Wine to Wine, which is the industry conference for Vin Italy. So it's just crazy. And then I get to relax. Yay.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So, hey, when people are getting ready to relax with the book, I was wondering if you could give us some insight in terms of like the tone of the book. Like, is this like a beginner's guide to wine? Is this your story behind wine? What can people expect when they pick it up?
It's a great question. And so two things. First of all, it dawned on me that I've been talking about this book for so long and I have never like read excerpts from it. So part of the sort of pre-launch of this is that because I already have my full face of makeup on right now for this video, I will be doing some videos reading from the book, even though there will be an audiobook to just give people a taste. But like here, I've got the book in front of me. I can just read, like I'll tell you what some of the chapters are. It's a primer. It's basically like, so the first one is basically vocabulary, like let's get it on the table, a real approach to tasting and talking wine. Chapter 2 is a quickie, not so techie tour of how wine gets made. 3 is how wine gets its flavor and why you should care. And then 4 is wine geography and the 2 wine worlds. And then I get into all the old world wine regions, all the new world wine regions. And then we kind of wrap with food and wine pairing, which is a methodology that I've come up with over the course of years, and then how to shop for wine, because I felt like that's one thing. So it really is I would say that it's a basic book, but I don't do that. I don't do like dummy stuff. So it's for smart people. I mean, that's always been the concept behind the podcast, was that and the book too, is that this isn't for people who are like, I really like drinking yellowtail or barefoot, and that's what I do. It's for people who want more of an exploration. It's for me, 15 years ago when I was feeling like an idiot going into a wine shop and being really pissed off that people were treating me like I was dumb, even though, because there's this bar to entry, when you get into wine, and it feels like shit. It just feels bad. And there's no reason for that. I mean, it's like anything else that you can learn. And I am the daughter of a professor who, as he could be pretentious and an asshole too, but like, mostly things were explained, right? If you had curiosity, things were explained in my house. That's how things went down. And so, like, the value for me in my like sort of background was, if you're intellectually curious, there should be a reward for that. It shouldn't be, you're an idiot, smack you down, get out of my club. It should be, you're intellectually curious. Let's fill that curiosity, and let's make you more curious. Let's get you more excited about it. That wine's got it all wrong. I mean, they have just screwed the pooch on this so many times. I mean, and they're still doing it now. You know, the sommelier culture is just not going to go there.
Yeah. And so I imagine it's, one of the things that I love about your podcast, and I listened to your podcast like religiously when I was studying for my Society Wine Educators exam, because the way you present when you talk about a region on the show, you give such a good overview of it, but you find just the right spots to kind of go just a little deep, like just you get into it a little bit, almost to like set the hook if you were fishing, to like, okay, that's really interesting. Now I know a little bit more, but now I want to know more. And so I imagine that's the voice that's coming through in the book. But it's probably going a little, obviously it's not the podcast. You're going deeper on every little thing, but just the way you present it is so personable, and you really focus on what's important to know. It's not, here's the 13 regions that you can get to out of Napa Valley, and don't forget the Rock Island, it's you're not going super deep, but you're hitting on, here's what you need to know if you're interested in it. And so is that where the book goes, or do you go deep on everything?
No, I can't. I mean, I couldn't go deep. The book is 340 pages long, and I wanted to go deeper on a lot of stuff. And I do have a plan for a next book that will go a little bit deeper on stuff.
Okay.
But the key for me is exactly what you're talking about. For most people, and this isn't like wine dorks, but for most people, there is, like I said, there's that barrier to entry.
Yep.
And you have to know a little bit more than the surface to really understand things, which is why I go that one level deeper, because there are certain factors that you've got to know just a little bit more. You've got to know about the communes. You don't have to know every Grand Cru, but you have to know they exist, in Burgundy. You don't have to know every chateau, but you have to, in Bordeaux, but you have to know they exist. You have to know that there's a difference between the valley floor and the mountains in Napa. So that is the goal of the book, is to give you those things to think about, because I think that's woefully lacking in a lot of things, is that context of like, all these people who are in wine know that. Where is it written? It's never written. So like, why not just write it? So, I mean, I will tell you right now that Wine Australia will probably send me hate letters forever. But I did write about how they overplayed their hand. They said they were going to be the biggest producer by 2025. And now look at them. You're lucky if there's 10 wines that are not Yellowtail on the shelf anywhere, even in a nice place, because they just overplayed it. And then people got sick of it, and they're having an incredibly difficult time coming back. And I'm just going to be honest about that. Why don't you see Australian wine on the shelves in the United States? For that reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like overplay your hand and then think, oh God, Americans are so stupid, they'll just take it. No, now they're trying to pawn it off on the Chinese, but that's no good either. Anyway.
John, I know we've been jumping over you to ask questions, but do you have anything you wanted to talk to Elizabeth?
Well, I'm going to ask the question, but Elizabeth already answered it anyway. I was like, okay, I know this is your baby and everything, but what did you forget?
It's not what I forgot. It's what was not allowed in, I guess. More than that. So I wrote a lot more than what got into the book, but editing and space constraints and stuff like that. So I went deeper on a lot of things that will have to be used in a different book. There were a few chapters, like whole chapters that got cut, that I wish kind of could have been there. Like there's a appendix that is on travel, but I wrote a whole chapter on it. I wrote a chapter on gadgets and glassware. Now I just wrote a giant article for Epicurious on glassware. So I guess that kind of like makes up for that, because that was a really fun task that I'd be happy to talk about if you guys want to hear more about that. But on gadgets and the things that you really need versus the things you don't need, that wound up on the cutting room floor too. There was a wine industry chapter that was kind of in there, but I didn't wind up writing it because they didn't want it. So so I think that I covered almost everything, but I do think that in the end, the things that were really important, like, I think the book goes through this evolution of, I didn't want, and I'm so happy that they let me do this. Like, I didn't want to take a bunch of vocabulary like every other wine book and shove it in the back of the book and be like, hey, here's your glossary.
Yeah.
Glossary is wine. You don't understand the words. You don't understand how wine is made. You don't understand the terms. You're screwed. It's over. It's already over for you. So the first couple chapters, the first 3 chapters are basically definitions. Now, it's not like this is blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's obviously told in, a story format with lots of interesting, hopefully, things that go along with these terms. But I thought that was like super important. So I wasn't going to put that in the back of the book. That's got to be in the front of the book. And then the next evolution is, once you get to vocabulary, it's geography, because those are the 2 most important things. You want to know about wine, you got to know about vocabulary and geography. That's it. That's basically all of wine right there. And then the last part is, how do you pull it together? Well, there's 2 things that people ask me about more than anything else. How the hell do I put food and wine together? And then, and my answer is complicated, but you don't just shake up a ball or take a book and look inside and be like, oh, that's great. Cause every dish is different and whatever. So there's that. And then the last thing is, like, how do you shop for wine, which is an issue no one ever talks about. Like, you got to be methodical about that shit. And if you're not, you wind up doing this around. I mean, okay, if you're watching the video, but like, you just wind up wandering around like, oh, wow, that looks pretty. That looks good. So the number of people that I feel like I have helped by giving them guidance on how to shop for wine, even in a restaurant. That's another form of shopping. So that chapter includes that. Oh, there was also a whole etiquette chapter, by the way, that was cut, that I sort of mushed some things into, but the wine etiquette is, that will be for a future book. That's, I think those are the practical things that need to be in here. So that's why they're in there. So that's it.
Awesome. I can't wait for it. I have my pre-order in. I'm just waiting for it to the day to get here. So you got the book coming out, but you also are fast approaching episode 300 of the Wine for Normal People podcast. Is there anything big coming up, or what can you tell us about what's coming up on WFNP radio?
Well, the thing that I have always done is, like, I'm super audience driven. So I just do whatever the audience, well, obviously I'm not gonna say whatever the audience wants, but like for episodes like that, it really is for me. And by the way, again, as a caveat, I will say I should have had many more episodes after all these years, but again, kids, the nightmare that is, like, not being able to sleep, as I see Jeff Solomon falling asleep up there.
Oh, I'm asleep right now. It's wonderful.
I know. I mean,
not because of you, because
I tons of cred, man. I mean, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Even my insomnia, I am a total insomniac. And when I had babies, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be like falling asleep right here. I'm good. So I mean, I probably should be farther along than episode 300, but episode 300 will probably be like whatever the patrons on Patreon told me to do. I'm going to like go through that. And, I think it'll be sort of like a retrospective about how things have changed, how I've changed over the years. And also, just, again, I always like to like make it something that's valuable. So maybe there'll be something on food and wine pairing or something. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't really, it's 2 episodes away, so I probably should be thinking about it, but I'm like Jamie on the spot here.
Our 250th episode is next week, and we have no idea what we're going to do.
It's interesting that you're saying it's like Patreon driven, because our listeners, our friends, they make us do things like drink White Claw. So
what is that? What is that?
That's what we want to know.
Oh, okay.
But
have you consumed it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard seltzer.
It's a hard seltzer, but it's so much more and so much less than that at the exact same time. But yeah, it must be nice having patrons that I know you talk about the haters, but your patrons must like you a little bit because they're not making you drink 40-ounce malt liquors for your 40th episode and stuff like that.
Oh, remember that I'm the person that focuses on the B plus. So I am the luckiest person ever. I mean, besides you guys, to have like a fantastic listening audience who is so supportive, who's like excited. Like, I mean, I got this huge freaking hit in the print edition of Oprah magazine. Like, that is really big. So the book was written up in that. And apparently I have a friend who works in media, and apparently like Oprah's involved with all that. So like, I mean, it's just enormous. It was absolutely enormous. And the outpouring of support and excitement, like genuine love and excitement from people, was just unbelievable. So it wasn't just the patrons, it was, on social media too. It is so that's why we all do what we do, right? Like if we didn't get this feedback, we'd just be like, screw it, I'm just gonna go, drink by myself, I guess.
No.
But yeah,
our listeners have a shit ton of Schadenfreude because they want us to drink 4 Loco on the show.
oh my gosh, this is sounding like, have you ever seen Shameless? Hobo Loco?
Yeah.
So I have to say that's got to be so. I don't even know if you can really put it into words, but like to know that you're on Oprah's radar it has to be like pretty amazing, right?
I can't. I don't process things like that. I just let them go. I just focus on like whatever's next. I mean, I like it's crazy. I mean, I in one day I had an article published in Epicurious that I wrote, and I don't write for other publications. I haven't written for other publications, but it was really fun. And on like what the best glassware was. I mean, Epicurious is one of these sites where like I use it, like it's something I use when I need something, when I have a recipe need, or I'm looking up something I want to buy. I use Epicurious, and then they asked me to write this article, and I was like, holy cow, that is huge. On the same day that, and then like the Oprah thing. I mean, I'm not good at processing that, so I just kind of ignore it. Yeah. I mean, I posted it because everybody told me to, but I'm like,
yeah,
that's just too much for me. I can't. Like, I'm not really that. Yeah, I'm not like. Yeah, it's a lot, but it doesn't mean again. But can I just say one thing about that?
Yes.
Even though that's awesome, in my B plus focusing self, I have to say, like, that doesn't guarantee your success at all. I could have the biggest celebrity in the world, and Oprah may very well be that person, like, say something great about the book, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to do well. So there's always that too. And I think that everybody who is kind of like success driven in a way, like anybody who is just that, I was like that nerdy student. I mean, I really was. I was like that person that really wanted to do well. So I'm always looking for like, how can I do better? What can I do next? Like, what can I, so it's fun. It's great that's there, and it feels very affirming, but at the same time, it's like, but will you guys like it? If you pre-ordered it, will you like it? Cause that's really important to me. I mean, like, the listeners aren't disappointed, and people like it, and whatever. And
yep.
Again, I'm never reading the internet again. So
Elizabeth, how do you generate ideas for your podcasts? Do you walk around the house? How do you walk around the house? Do you stare at wine on the wall at the wine shop? How do you generate the ideas for your episodes?
So I have the shittiest memory for almost everything in the world except wine stuff. And this is how I knew I should like be in wine. For some reason, I just read things and they stick in my brain about wine. So I read a lot of stuff on a daily basis. And then last year I did this exercise where I downloaded like all the episodes I've ever done. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much I haven't covered. And in maybe 20 minutes, I came up with 90 ideas of things that should be covered. And it's just because like, I have this crazy ass memory. And I'm so interested in the topic. I know it's so I am a nerd. I'm telling you, like I am one of those people that's just a huge nerd. Like I graduated with honors from business school. Who does that? No one does that. Like, it's a pass-fail system, but somehow like I was like because that was important to me. Like I'm that nerd. I am that person that is so nerdy. But for some reason, like I said, I don't remember shit about shit. I can't even remember, like my daughter was like, you didn't sign my permission slip for this museum field trip. Yet I could tell you, the communes of Bordeaux and Burgundy. And, I don't know. So like when I see, look at the list of stuff and I'm like, okay, and literally in 20 minutes, I was in the spreadsheet and I was just like, okay, that. And I was like, oh, that's 90 ideas. That should keep me going for a little while.
That should do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Elizabeth, is there anything we missed? Is there anything else that you'd like us to cover?
I think so, unless you want to talk about my wine glass excursion, which I think was pretty interesting. My wine glass, I wrote an article for Epicurious on wine glasses, and I'm drinking out of my favorite one, but they're going to make me return it. So I have to buy my own.
What? They're going to make you send back a stem?
We have to know.
I have like 50 stems from that. Yeah. But so I thought this was a really fascinating experiment because over the course of about 5 or 6 weeks, I tried so many wines out of different stems, and I never understood. I guess I never realized how much glassware has an impact. Like it's huge. So I would recommend that everybody do an experiment with their existing glassware. Pour the same wine into each glass and see what aromas and flavors it produces. It's bananas. I mean, really, seriously, it's bananas. Like I was not bullshitting in that article at all. It was one of these things where like every time the Zalto glass, which is $60 a stem, and I would never buy more than one, it just overperformed. It blew everything out of the water. And I did it blind. I did it like I mean, it was just crazy. I gave it to people who didn't drink wine, and it's a crazy thing. And the others, the runners up, there's a Riedel Veritas stem that's really great, and then also Spiegelau, which has always been like my house glass. Thank God, it overperformed. So yeah, I mean, it's I think that's an experiment that everyone should do.
So
I've got a low budget example of that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not so low budget. So I've got a video for you Patreons coming up about my trip to Southern Illinois to watch cottonmouths cross the road. But anyway, I took a bunch of growlers of lizard tail beer to this get together. And there's one guy from Colorado who loves our honey pale ale. He's had it a bunch of times. He's like, you're bringing growlers of honey pale ale, all right? Yeah, Tim, I'm bringing growlers of honey pale ale. In fact, I've got 2 just for you. So I filled the one growler, my OSU growler, which is a 50-50, and it's got a really wide mouth. And it's like the first campfire, the first night at the campground. I go, here, Tim, here's your growler of honey pale. And he shared it with some other people, but he's just drinking out of this growler. He's like, oh man, this is like the best beer ever. I can't believe I like it this much. The next night, I give him another growler, but it was the one we got sent to us that has the really tiny top on it.
Interesting.
Right. And he was just drinking it out of that really tiny top. It's like 3/8 of an inch wide. He goes, why are you giving me this stuff? You know, I don't like IPAs. Tim, it's the exact same beer. No, it's not. It's an IPA. I'm like, dude, it's the exact same beer. I took it. I poured. Actually, he just like, you're giving me an IPA. I said,
canted into something else.
No, I just poured it into a red Solo cup. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can actually smell the honey and everything else. And yeah, it is the same thing. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of low budget, even though those growlers are $60 a piece. But
Jesus, that's
Yeah.
expensive.
So is the glass that Elizabeth's holding right now.
Yeah, see that
So-
glass
This is the
costs as much
Zalto,
as-
yes.
Yeah.
Because
I've
I
heard,
didn't send it back yet.
and I've heard that from multiple people. They're like, "What, if you get a Zolto glass, you will be ruined for life." 'Cause
Okay,
it's
so
just
I've
yes
got
and no. I mean, there are drawbacks to it, which are that I'm not putting this in the dishwasher. I mean, would you put this in the
How do
dishwasher?
you even wash that thing?
No.
How do you even wash it?
And I have the best, like, shitty $5. It's like looks like a flower stem, and you
oh yeah,
I mean, this is like like I've got, like, on my Amazon store, I have things that are like $5 because I only do things that I recommend, and I'm not a gadget person, so like everything is like $5. But there's this I think they call it like the sponge rose, and it really gets in there and cleans it. So, and it doesn't break it. But I think this is the thing about the Zalto. You buy one or two for your house. So, like, if you love wine and you really want, and you don't use it every night, you only use it when you're having a special glass. I will tell you though, I love the Spiegelau. I think that they're so much better than anything else out there. I had it against Schatzweisel, against Stozel, against Libby, which, like, Wirecutter said was the greatest glass. I just didn't see it. I mean, like every time the Spiegelau blew everything away. It wasn't that much different from the Riedel, and Spiegelau owns Riedel. I mean, Riedel owns Spiegelau, so
right.
so
and they ruined
Elizabeth,
that brand. But
I have to know, and I hope we're not going down, like, opening up this huge can of worms, but and I hope we're not giving away like anything in the article, because I think everybody should read this. Can an amazing wine glass, can it make a shitty wine taste better, or does it make the shitty wine shittier?
I did not try it with shitty wine because as practice, I try not to drink shitty wine. So I can drink inexpensive wine. I drink plenty of Trader Joe's wines, but I try really hard not to drink shitty wine. What I can tell you is what it can make wine that is not as good out of one glass taste a lot better. It can somehow smooth the rough edges. And I don't know how, I don't understand, like, the chemistry or the physics behind this glass, this Zalto glass. But all I can tell you is there's an enormous difference. And the other thing I will tell you, and I'm not going to name the name of the glass, is that MCIs, who is my husband, co-podcast or whatever, there was one glass, it's expensive. It's a universal glass, which I totally do not believe in. We start calling it the ass glass because every time anything you poured in it tasted like ass and smelled like I mean, like, when I say like ass, I'm not saying like an actual ass, but like it just was disgusting, especially compared to everything else. So we just took it out of the contention after a while. We were like, this is the ass glass. This is horrible.
That reminded me, I'm sorry, for a second, I went down this road of like this Gary Vaynerchuk video. Like, how do you know what all these things taste like? And like, there were some outtakes that just could not be shown. But that's awesome. That's so cool. I feel like I know what glass you're talking about.
Yeah,
I haven't tried it.
I think I know too.
Well, we can go off air. I'd be happy to compare notes on it because it's ridiculous, and they poured so much money into it. But I do have to say, like, I don't believe in stemless, and I don't believe in universal. But maybe that segues into like what people believe, and maybe we should talk about that PR piece, Jeff Eccles.
Yeah. So I think we've got everything we need to out of you for our interview portion. Yes, Elizabeth. Okay. Excellent. So again, folks, this is Elizabeth Schneider from Wine for Normal People. You can get her new book. If you're going to order it, get on it, get it done before November 5th. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes & Noble, go to your local bookshop, tell them to carry it, or visit welikedrinking.com/affiliate. And there's a link there where you can go buy it from Amazon, and we get like half a cent from it or something.
Yeah, give us a penny for
carrying
hipping
it
you to it.
For all of Elizabeth's hard work, we're gonna try and Just go a couple pennies.
Yeah, we'll ride some coattails.
Take
What the
it.
heck?
So be sure to get that if you're at all interested in it. If you're at all interested, do it before the 5th. I think if there is a wine lover in your life, when I'm looking at you, this is probably a good Christmas. This is a really good Christmas present for them. Get them in before the tide rises, before it rises into a mountain that is going to be the #1 bestseller of the Wine for Normal People book.
Your lips to God's ears.
That's right. All right. Excellent. Okay, let's move on from that. And we've got some fun stuff to talk about tonight with Booze News, where we discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some really stupid shit. Okay. So I have this wine celebrity that I follow that published. She got an email from a PR person this week talking about a new Twitter hashtag movement. I'm going to put in quotes that they're striving for. It's called #RespectWine, a worldwide campaign to prohibit the use of ice in wine. And I know right now you probably just yelled, "What the fuck?" at your phone, but let me continue here. So with the hashtag respect wine, there's this French restaurateur, Alexander Calais. He's a Michelin guide. He's launching a global campaign to promote respect for wine and respect for the work of the viticulturists, including part of it, the goal of literally banning the use of ice being served in wine. So I don't know if this means that you end up in a gulag, or if you end up, the guillotine comes down on you, or what, if you dare allow someone to drop an ice cube into your wine. But apparently the shackles are coming out. He goes on to talk about how, and this is literally part of the email, ice cubes more dangerous to French wine than Trump. There's a lot of talk about the tariffs that are being imposed, and that's a whole nother subject that we're not going to get into. But somehow this gentleman feels that putting ice cubes in wine is more dangerous to French wine than having tariffs placed on him. And his biggest thing, I think, that we really should talk about is his fight against ketchupization.
Thank you.
And he talks about how, apparently in France they're starting to put ketchup on things, so he's calling it the ketchupization. I think everybody at least 3 times in this episode needs to say ketchupization. And he's saying that we already have junk food, and now we're helping by putting ice in wine. We're helping to create junk wine, adds Alexander. So he goes on and on with more ketchupization bullshit. But this just
Thank
blew
you
my
so
mind.
much, Jeff. I really appreciate. That was really important to me that you say ketchupization.
Yes, we do. So here's the best thing about it. He launched this. This was launched in 5 continents by major media outlets. I went on Instagram today and I checked #RespectWine. I think that's what it is. #RespectWine. There was like some dude stomping grapes in the hashtag. I went on Twitter where I expected it to just be a windfall of stuff to talk about, and I typed in #RespectWine. There was 2 tweets mentioning the global campaign. That was it. So I thought I'd get your take on this. Is really, the biggest things that we have to worry about in life, climate change, and why ice cubes and wine. Jeff Solomon.
It's ketchupization. Don't
Ketchupization.
forget that.
So
Ketchupization of junk wine.
Here's what's great. Our listeners know I've got a baby that is 2 weeks and 1 day old today, so I haven't been getting much sleep. And today I took an amazing, just like hardcore nap that I woke up out of mid-REM sleep, and I was like a zombie all afternoon. And I just started to feel like myself right before I got on the show. And Eccles goes, "Did you read the article I told everybody to read before the show?" And I go, "No." And as he's talking about this now, about this guy's fight against ice cubes and wine, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like how people put ketchup on shit that doesn't need to go there. And then I scroll down and I see ketchupization. I feel like me and whatever the Alexandre Calais. I think we're on the same page here in some respect. I will say, trying to start a hashtag for anything, I think you're doing it the wrong way, and I blame your PR people who apparently you probably spent a whole lot of dough to get this on the floor, but I think hashtag World Porter Day had more traction than this did. But I will say this, right? I understand that he has a point, especially as a chef, because I was talking to my dad was down the other day, quote unquote, helping out with the kids. He was really freeloading off of me for a couple of days. And we got some delicious barbecue down the street. And the first thing he does is he goes into my refrigerator and just pulls out every jar of mustard and starts slathering everything in mustard. And then putting mayonnaise on top of that. At my dad's house, every carton of ice cream has dents from tablespoons with like peanut butter frozen inside of it. And there's this part of me where it's like, have a little bit of respect for the chef when it comes to things. Like I don't like when people like by default dip things in ranch and stuff like that. That being said, I also think that movements like this, you read this out loud and you say this out loud, and it's so ridiculous because if somebody enjoys something in whatever way that they do it, that's fucking fine. If somebody rolls into your Michelin star restaurant with a vat of Dijonnaise in a Camelback and just starts unloading it over the top, who cares? They still paid $80 for that hamburger. You're doing just fine, right? Like, let people defile your dream as they see fit, because you are not the one who gets to decide how they enjoy your product, right? Do you think Pink Floyd is moping around going, how come every time people listen to Dark Side of the Moon, they have to watch a movie in order to enjoy it at the same time? It's, that's okay. Let people do what they do. You know what I mean, man? And dare I say, especially when we talk about the world of wine and this, even when people aren't trying to be, have this air of pretension, there's this like cloud and this shroud and that idea that exists there. But man, it takes a real like tough cookie to, when the time is right, order a white Zinfandel, and when the time is right, drop an ice cube into something, and when the
into
time
that
is
very
right,
white Zinfandel.
oh yeah,
White Zinfandel with an ice cube. That is powerful.
Certainly, and maybe even you take like a friggin' like Ridge Montebello and use it as a wine cocktail. Like, if you want to just get nuts with it, go ahead and do that. If that's the enjoyment that you get out of it, like, that's awesome, man. Like, dude, welcome into the club. If you want to put ice into shit, if that's what makes it palatable for you, go for it, man. An ice cube and a Chardonnay,
Like, it's better than a black fly in your Chardonnay. You know what I'm saying?
John, I know you're itching to get your thoughts out on this.
This dude, I mean, he probably invented mayo chup to begin with. And the French, I know they invented French fries, but maybe they
mayonnaise
dip
on it.
them in mayo. What the? How does he have any right to tell us not to put ice in wine? We're against ice in wine or against ice wine?
But let's be clear. He's not just against putting ice in wine. He wants to ban the shit.
Well, no, here's the thing. AOC wants to empty all of our prisons, let all the felons out. We're going to fill them back up with the people who put ice in wine.
Oh my God.
So Elizabeth, you're 100% on board with this, right?
Okay, I have many thoughts on this. One is I'm not totally with Solomon on this. Like, I get it that if I were making Montebello, like if I were Paul Draper and making this expensive wine from these really expensive grapes, that I probably would not want somebody putting ice in it. Although I will tell you that another thing that I do is I have got those little like plastic ice cubes that I drop in if the temperature's not right. And so would that also land me in jail? Like, was that guillotine worthy? I don't know. Like, that cools it down but doesn't get any water in it. So I'm not really sure. I may wind up dead from that too. But really, the thing about the press release that takes it one step further is that, and I am not going to get too into like the politics. And I will say, like, I am a centrist, so I'm going to just lay this out here, is that right now, his slogan is "Make wine great again." Is that correct? I believe that is his slogan. And it's like, yo, right now in the United States, our leader is a little bit embattled right now, and there's not a whole lot of like, we're going guns a-blazing on like make America great again. And so I think that it's not just like his message is so crazy. He also is so off key for what's going on in the world right now that it was like a double whammy. When I read this thing, I was like, first of all, this is absurd. And if you're really worried about this, ban it in your restaurant, but people can do whatever the hell they want in the privacy of their own homes, A. And B, the tone of this press release was hilarious because it was like, make wine great again. First of all, this is not a freaking epidemic. It's not like anti-vaxxers spreading measles. Like, that's not where we are here. There are some people putting ice in their wine, and that's totally fine. Maybe they're not serious wine drinkers. Whatevs, man. But the problem really is like, make wine great. Where were you? Like, this should have happened 3 years ago when people were really on, the Trump train or whatever. This is, and coming from a French guy, the whole key was so off. I thought it was hilarious. Just from like, what, do you ever watch the news? Do you ever see what's going on? This is kind of messed up. And then coming from France, I mean, the whole thing was just, it was bizarro. I thought that guy was whacked.
It was crazy. I can't see this gaining a lot of momentum. But
it's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it is a joke. It really doesn't feel like it is. I hope it is, but next time I drop some ice in a glass, I'll definitely be looking over my shoulder for the the wine police.
It can't be a joke. It's the French. They don't like the Three Stooges, and they do like Jerry Lewis. So yeah, they don't have a sense of humor.
All right, so
what? I'm sorry. It needs to be said. I know it's not a joke because I can see the make wine great again in English and in French in the same Twitter feed. So I know it's the real deal. I did just want to ask, especially because our buddy Matthew Reed, who is in some weird corner of the world, is watching live right now. I just need to know, for everybody watching live, do you put ice cubes in your wine? Do you have feelings about people who put ice cubes in their wine? By the end of the episode, I'd love to read some of those comments. And Matthew, let us know where you're putting our stickers next.
and if you've gotten out of the twin bunk beds yet, we're really curious about that. Oh my goodness. So that was great. This has been fantastic. Here's a shock. We've gone hella long, and I'm looking at the bartender, and he's getting pretty PO'd at us right now. So he's flashing the lights, and he's calling.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. You know what we do here, folks? We're looking for help from you. You can follow us on the social medias. That's where we want to get your start for help. On Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We're on Twitter at We Like Drinking 1. That's number 1. On Instagram and Facebook at We Like Drinking, or join our private Facebook group known as The Tavern by visiting welikedrinking.com/tavern. Elizabeth, as a reminder, what's the best place for the peoples to find you on the interwebs?
You can go to winefornormalpeople.com or follow me on Facebook and Instagram on Wine for Normal People, or at Normal Wine if you like Twitter.
Absolutely. And be sure to check out Instagram or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or the We Like Drinking affiliate page to get your order in for Elizabeth's new book, Wine for Normal People. John Ruyak, if the listeners have listened to this episode and they have some feelings about ice cubes in their wine and they want to let us know about it on a chat room somewhere or something like that, where can they go to leave us a review of the show?
So just go look up Apple Podcasts and leave us a big fat 5 estrellas if you enjoyed the episode.
There you go. And let us know what you think. Positive, though. And then hop over to Wine for Normal People. Give her 5 stars, too. Jeff Solomon, if the people have done all that, they've taken the ice cubes out of their wine before the police bash down their door, and they got a little extra coin that they want to throw at somebody, what can they do?
I know exactly what they can do, and I want to put a more personal spin on this. I was sitting down at a bar the other day, waiting for my to-go dinner order to be ready for pickup, and I ordered a beer, and I left a tip for the beer. Do y'all leave tips when you buy a single beer at a bar?
Absolutely.
And the typical tip is what, like $1?
Yeah,
$1 or $2.
Depends on the price.
yeah, $5
20%.
$5 pint, $1.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
and so I was thinking about that, and like even if the service, if the service sucks, you might not leave anything, but like in general, nobody has to give you extraordinary service for you to order a beer and leave $1 afterwards. And I was just thinking, like, here's just some random dude working their ass off, by the way. And in the context of it, they gave you a beer, and that's part of what bartenders do. But also, it's more than that. Like bartending is a trade, and it's not just about serving drinks. It's about making sure everybody is happy and making sure that everybody is safe and keeping the conversations going and getting you to maybe think more deeply about what's going on. And I was just thinking about this show, and I was like, on some level, if you felt like at any moment our podcast had given you maybe more value than a single beer in your life, have you ever thought about maybe tipping your local podcaster, right? Because I don't think we're asking for much. We will give you hours every single month, and all we ask for in return is $1. $1.
$1.
And yeah, there's a lot of different prizes and stuff that you can get, based off of that. But really, doesn't it just make you feel better to tip the bartender
of your mind? Go to welikedrinking.com/pledge to find out more.
You can also find the show notes for this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. Oh my goodness, this has been a fantastic episode. This has been a lot of fun, but it's the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
The Sauvignon Blanc was delicious and it wasn't too acidic, but I'm kind of sick. I'm not sick. I don't want a white wine anymore, but I'm not sure I'm done drinking tonight. So I think I'm going to head over to the kitchen, open up my freezer, and I've got a big ice cube tray with 2015 Ridge Montebello with frozen in little ice cubes with wooden toothpicks in it. I'm going to have a couple of those.
I thought you were going to say you're going to get some ketchup and you were going to ketchupization the shit out of your Sauvignon Blanc. Jeff Solomon.
Yeah, I'm going to do you guys one better. This Aver Family Vineyards 2012 Blessings 100% Petite Syrah from the Santa Clara Valley is amazing, but you know what it's missing? Garlic.
I thought you were going to say that it needed to be slathered in mustard in honor of your dad, and it was going to be a mustardization of your Avery wine.
If there are not chunks of peanut butter floating around this glass by the end of this episode, something is wrong.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts, or what exactly are you putting in your wine now?
Well, obviously, the ketchupization of wine is going to happen. Along with my freedom fries, I will be having my Virginia wine with ketchup, because what's better than sweetened, not really fruit, tomato, something? And Jeff Solomon, I just have to say, it's a tiny bit odd to hear you talk about barbecue. I live in North Carolina. You might want to watch it, man. I mean, look at who you're talking to here. North Carolina barbecue. I mean, come on, man.
No,
California? Aren't you supposed to be eating avocados over there?
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't roast your
with
birds
ketchup
and
garlic.
You don't roast your birds in avocado.
You need to put some avocado chips and maybe that's like a new wine for you. California needs to get together with the garlic, the avocado, make a new wine. Make that happen. That's what you should be putting in your wine.
Artichokes.
I'm weaving right now the ultimate wine glass out of bean sprouts. You guys just wait.
Mung bean sprouts.
Look for Gilroy, California to be the new hub of guacamole wine. It's coming soon.
With ketchup.
With ketchup, the ketchupization of garlic wine is what's next.
Hey,
all right,
pace yourself. Pace
picante sauce ourselves. Okay. Okay, Elizabeth, thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on the show again. Thank you so much last minute for coming on the show. Thank you so much for this book. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. You are an all-star in the wine community. You are an all-star in the podcast community, and we are honored to have you on our show. And you are just one of the best people out there. So thank you so much.
You're so nice. Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast,
where you'll never drink.
Yeah, the timing on that was awesome.
And that happened. All right. Viewers, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna end it now because we're already at like an hour and a half. So thank you for watching, viewers. Stay tuned next week for episode 250.
Live streaming.